Let's go ahead and get the show on the road here. Go ahead and open the public hearing officially. I know we've got a couple of speakers to be heard after this, and I'd just as well, in fairness, go through the public hearings, which should be pretty, based on what I saw, fairly quick. And then we'll deal with the speakers, which is traditionally how we do it. So, County Attorney, are you on here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item 20 is your first public hearing. It's the first and only public hearing to adopt the Code of Ethics into law and into your code book. This is the result of the Charter Amendment referendum, which passed last November. We were directed by the Charter Amendment to have this done before the end of this calendar year, and we got it done before half of the calendar year. So it is ready for you to vote upon. There's no major changes from what we had in policy. We basically put it into a new format. All the definitions are in one place, and there's no ringers. It doesn't do anything more than what 112 would require, except it does have still in law the lobbyist registration aspect of it and the real estate policy. So it is ready for you to consider, and if you have any speakers.
Any questions, comments? No speakers, no. We have a motion. We have a second. Yeah. I dare some of y'all to challenge the ethics thing here. Right. Commissioner Minor? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. You know, for years I've communicated with a small group of people in Tallahassee that have been experts in ethics, and I think many of you probably know the people I'm talking about. And just like 20 minutes ago, I got a list of some of the things that they had pointed out after reviewing the ethics policy. And I definitely understand Mr. Thiele's comments about how there's really no substantive changes in the lobbying piece other than just the format. But I thought this is a good opportunity to bring up a couple of different things that I wanted to discuss with you all. First of all, on the piece about honorariums, I think that is page, I can't find it at the moment, but on the section about honorariums, is there anything we can do there to add language that would assure that we can distinguish between an honorarium and a gift? I think there might be potential for some abuse with an honorarium being given to a gift being given under the guise of an honorarium. I think the language in there is kind of self-explanatory, but is there anything in there you think we could use to strengthen that language? This is actually page 448 on the bottom. Honorarium means a payment of money or anything of value, indirectly or directly, in consideration for a speech, address, oration, or other oral presentation. I think that's pretty good language. Anything else that you think would be?
It matches the statute, so that's why
it does?
I'm trying not to deviate from that.
No, that's good. No, if it matches the statute, that's fine with me. On section 665, subsection B, we talk about how there's a prohibition on fundraising for nonprofits, but would it be helpful for us to qualify it, to add a qualifier in there for prohibition on 501c4 organizations, political advocacy organizations? Under that section, it says that nonprofits can raise funds provided the county administrator gives approval.
Right.
But I think it would be helpful for us to specify that 501c4s are prohibited under that section for political advocacy.
Okay.
So is there a question there?
Let's see, what page is that? Page 452, middle of the page. You'll see where I'm at. A county employee may solicit or be solicited for contributions for a nonprofit charitable organization as defined under the IRS during county working hours upon approval of the county administrator or designee, or county attorney or designee as appropriate. Would a nonprofit charitable organization include a 501c4 under IRS rules?
Thought it did. I will look, and if we need to modify it, we can just bring something back.
Okay.
But I wouldn't want to plug it in now on the fly.
I understand. And that was essentially it. That was the main point that I had. I'm willing to support, I know the motion's been made and seconded. I'm willing to support the motion and second, provided at some later point, if we need clarification on the 501c4
Yes, sir.
definition, we could do that.
Okay, absolutely, yeah. And like most of this, nothing is cast in stone. We can, if we find something that, needs to be adjusted, we can bring it back up and deal with it, yeah. Yes.
Actually, that brings up a good point that I had not thought about before, and thank you for your questions, Commissioner Meyer. Mr. County Attorney, if there are changes, because you've aligned the ethics code to the statute, if there are changes in future years to the statute, is that going to, I assume that would prompt us to change our ethics code anyhow. Would we go through different steps now that we're making a part of the charter? It's going to demand public hearings, things like that, to make any type of amendments if we want to, or if the statute changes?
If the statute's changed to make something more stringent than it currently is, we would have to bring back an amendment to what we have at present, which we would.
And go through the same process because we've elevated it?
No, this is just in your code. This is not in your
I'm
charter.
so sorry. It's in the.
So it would just
I
be
knew
an
that.
ordinance.
I said the wrong thing. I promise.
So it would just be an ordinance amendment, and we would bring it
That would
back
be
from
it.
time to time. This does, by the way, incorporate the new revolving door Florida constitutional amendment that I think gets triggered in 2022 or 3. Mm-hmm. Yes. So it's already in here, so it's ready to go when that becomes effective.
I just misspoke with the charter, but thank you. I just was curious about that process going forward. Thank
No,
you.
that's something that you need to rely on me or somebody to catch and say, okay, this is a change to Chapter 112 that makes it more stringent than what we have in our ethics ordinance now. We would bring that back.
I think someone needs to start ticking off how many times our county attorney says me or someone else in the next 9 months. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. Next up, Mr. County Attorney.
Yes, sir. The next item is the end of a large-scale project that we have been working on for a year or more, and that is to show and tell is always fun. Adopt this new book. It is the complete recodification of your code, the result of which is, again, no significant changes, no substantive changes to what you currently have on the books, but it did get rid of repetitious things. It got rid of things that had, since the time of the first recodification in 92, things which were no longer applicable, statutory changes. We had things in our code book that the statutes don't have anymore, and so all of the surplus, if you would, has been eliminated. The only major change is that we have eliminated most all of the fees from being in the code book and put them into resolution. And if you approve option number 1 tonight, you'll be approving this code book with one ordinance, approving all of its component parts, and you will be approving 3 resolutions to establish the fees that were in the old code book. And so we recommend to you option 1.
We have a motion. We have a second. Okay. Discussion.
Quick comment, Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
I heard a note on public radio this morning about the city looking to use gender-neutral language, And I love the fact that I read that before we ever had a discussion about it in this item, so well done. It may be a simple thing for a lot of people, but it's not something everybody thinks to amend when they're looking at something like this. So that's the most minor revision that you probably made to this code book, so well done. Thank your staff for working on this. I'm sure it was a team effort, but I picked up on that, and I really appreciate the attention to detail. Thanks.
All right. Any other discussion? We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. Next up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This next item is your first and only public hearing to consider an amendment to the Southwood Integrated Development Order. This item seeks your approval of the proposed Fourth Amendment to the development order to redesignate an 18-acre mixed-use office commercial parcel to medium density. It requires the approval of the city and the county commissions and would allow the applicant to construct apartments. It has been found consistent by the Planning Commission, and staff recommends its approval. We have no speakers on this item.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Administrator. What's up next? We've got...
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just had a moment for the technology to catch up to you. As required by Florida statutes, Commissioners, we've got public hearings. The next three items are public hearings to adopt our non-ad valorem assessment roles. The first hearing is to adopt the stormwater non-ad valorem assessment role. We have no speakers on this item.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify.
Mr. Chairman, I want to ask,
Commissioner Proctor, I'm sorry.
You know, this is a hard measure. We've talked about this before, and I know that it's storming outside right now. But are we actually charging people because it rains on their property? I mean, is that what we're doing, Vince?
Alan, do you want to take a shot at that in terms of explaining what the stormwater fee pays for and doesn't cover, perhaps?
And plus, everybody don't own the same amount of property.
And we have a single-family residential equivalent unit, Commissioner. So if you have a single-family home, you have a flat rate for your home. Businesses who displace more water and put more water from their private property on the public property, we take all of their square footage and we convert it and say you have the equivalent of X number of homes. And so businesses would pay more, but no, we don't basically single you out as a home and say, if you have a bigger house, you pay more. It's the same flat rate for everybody. But in addition, we give discounts for those subdivisions and other properties that do retain more of their own water and treat their own water. So we do have a sliding scale and give credits to individuals who do hold more water on their property.
So the money that we raise because it rains, and we collect money because it rains off people's property, do we put that back into ditches, or we dig
Yes, this
more
is all
holes?
this all goes into stormwater maintenance. This money is restricted to be held to maintain the stormwater property, to maintain our stormwater treatment.
How long
facilities
have
throughout
we
the
had
community.
this in effect?
Excuse me?
How long has this been on the books?
Oh, a quarter of a century? At least 25 years.
25 years, okay. As a matter of conscience, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm going to vote no on this right here because it's an amazing thing. We charge people to drink water, but I'm not sure if we need to rethink whether or not we charge people because water falls out of the sky. So I'll be voting no against this.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposition?
Aye.
All right. Motion carries 5-1 with the chairman out of chambers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Similarly, the next is the adoption of the solid waste disposal non-ad valorem assessment role. We have no speakers on this item as well.
We have a motion, and I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And finally, your last public hearing seeks your adoption of the Fire Rescue Services non-ad valorem assessment role. We have no speakers on this item as well.
We have a motion and a second. Yes, Commissioner Proctor, you want to weigh in on this?
Just to know, is there equality of payment for the fire services for people who live in the county versus those who live in the city? Have we ever created a congruent scale of assessment in that regard for fire services?
Mr. Chairman, the fire services fee is based on your proximity to fire stations. It's more specifically, it's based on your proximity to two fire stations. We have to have a legal methodology that's performed, and we do that and update that study on occasion, on a regular basis, to ensure that we remain in compliance with all the applicable rules and laws as that is concerned. But again, so it doesn't so much provide a distinction between city and county as much as it does between your home and two fire stations.
So, Mr. Chairman, some years ago brought this up, the non-availability of fire hydrants down Crawfordville Road made available to citizens who live on Oak Ridge Road area, the Pines community, and these people's insurance for homeowners insurance costs a little bit more because we've not availed them of fire hydrant services. We talked about building a big tank and, possibly that big tank with downlink because we couldn't run. But every time I go through Wakulla area, there are fire hydrants all in the woods. I mean, they're just everywhere. I still don't know why a pipe can be dug and go all across Wakulla County with fire hydrants where nobody is. But here we are in Leon County in urban compacted areas, and no fire hydrants. And the citizens are actually being taxed more, if you will, by insurance companies because, as the county administrators pointed out, the insurance companies likewise look at the distance from which you're either from a fire station or the non-availability at all of fire hydrants. And for these reasons, as a matter of conscience, to what we've not availed citizens in the South End, I won't be able to support this because people there are paying for this fire service stuff, and then they actually get jacked in their homeowners insurance because of the absence of fire hydrants and so forth. So I wanted the board to appreciate, and if you can't, I'm still going to vote against this. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you. Commissioner Proctor, you bring up some good points. However, I think we had the LIFE program under discussion in our budget workshop today, and we've already started addressing this problem. I'm not sure how many hydrants we've already installed yet, but neighborhoods can apply. Some of them have matched money with us. This has been an issue. We created a program in recent years that I've been really excited about, and the LIFE program coming on board with the sales tax extension will enable us to install more hydrants. I think the fire service fee, whether you have a hydrant or not, you still need a fire truck to come to your house to connect to the hydrant. So I just wanted to say that because these are two issues that are both critical to get good fire response and to have the resources on property. So as we push forward with the hydrant program and others, Ms. County Administrator, you mentioned the proximity to fire stations. Is it also other infrastructure like hydrants that may help in the future? Might we be helping this, our ability to better serve rural residents with this program and help them with their insurance, all of those other factors?
Absolutely. It's not so much factored into the rate. That's primarily based on fire stations. However, it is a factor, proximity to fire hydrants, which is a critical factor in the determination of the insurance rating, the ISO rating. So it's a combination of the two. And I should mention that the fire services fee is also used to construct new fire hydrants as well.
Right, okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, just as a theoretic, events are the programs that have been suggested by Commissioner Dozier. Any of those have those areas which I've been on bended knee pleading and begging for? Any of those areas like down off of Glover Road, Oak Ridge Road? We have fire hydrants scheduled to come down there?
We'd have to bring a status report back to you, Commissioners. I know we did so not too long ago, but we'd have to bring another one back to you on fire hydrants. I just couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Well,
Yes, we have an extensive.
My vote is not on the theoretics of what will come. My vote will be based on the actuality of what exists and is. And today, we don't have it existent. It ain't is, and I can't support it.
Okay. Any more discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposition?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-1 with Chairman Ad Chambers. We do have some speaker cards.
Okay,
Start.
we do. We have 3 speaker cards in, Commissioners. The first speaker is Richard Edwards.
Richard, name and address for the record.
2020 Longview Drive. If you have to excuse me, I have a cold. This is in reference to the holding pond between Harriet Drive and Longview Drive, which is now a sinkhole. It went down back in December, came back up January, went back down, came back up again, went down again. It's not been up since about the end of February or 1st of March. Now, I've seen some geologists out there drilling core samples, taking readings, things like that, but I don't know what the county's doing about it. My next door neighbor, their driveway is deteriorating, it's cracking, the cement's just going away. The foundation is cracked on their house, the walls have cracks in it. When the excuse me, when the holding pond came up, they had water under their house. They had to get a sump pump and pump it out. Now they live at, believe it's 2024 Longview Drive. And their last name is Firmin, F-I-R-M-I-N. Now I haven't had any problems, but my concern is my house safe? Because it's not a sinkhole anymore. It's a sinkhole now. It used to be a holding pond. And I want to know if my house is safe. Is the county doing something about it? Because the sinkhole is just empty right now. There's no water in it. It just goes straight down. And that's the reason why I call it a sinkhole, not a holding pond. Do I have any answers?
Well, you want to take a shot at this?
Sure,
Mr.
sure, I'll give it a
Administrator?
shot.
Yeah, probably more appropriate.
Commissioners, we're very familiar with the sinkhole that Mr. Edwards brings up, and we've been working very closely with the neighbor that he referenced.
Yes.
And he's right. There is a sinkhole in a county stormwater pond, which does happen. Obviously, we don't control where sinkholes open. We don't own the sinkhole. We don't really have responsibility for sinkholes outside the property that we own. We've done extensive testing on this sinkhole. You may recall at your last budget workshop, we actually brought this issue up, and the board provided funding for us to mitigate the sinkhole that we're talking about now, and we will have those dollars available for us to do a project relative to the mitigation of that sinkhole. So we'll do that in the coming year. We'll fix that sinkhole. We've tested the property that I'm most familiar with is across the road from the sinkhole. We've done testing just to see if the sinkhole is even hurting or impacting the integrity of that road itself that sits between the county stormwater pond and that property. It does not. The road is not in danger or impacted by the sinkhole. So again, we will be fixing the sinkhole that is in that stormwater pond, but that's really all we can do.
Can I ask another question? How are you going to fix it?
Well, I like to ask Brent to come on, Brent Pell to come to the. There's no easy way to fix them, but there are several different methods that we're exploring. We're in the engineering and design currently, and Brent can talk about that.
The proposed remediation is going to be grouting the one opening and then doing a clay liner over the entire bottom of the pond so it can no longer pass through to softer soils beneath. So that's the two measures we're going to take.
So wait, so you put a liner in it so the water can't?
It'll be clay. We're going to bring clay in and cover it, make it impervious, so it actually just does a storage area again and discharges eventually to Lake Jackson.
Okay. But in fairness.
Point of information, the gentleman mentioned Mr. Furman, as though he sustained structural damage to his home as a result of this is what you're saying. County attorney, at what extent and when does it trigger that the county would be liable for sinkhole damage now that we know and have received notice that it exists? Do we have an affirmative duty to react, respond, and to protect life and safety in homes, or is every man for himself and pray that they have insurance? How does it work?
In general, the answer to your question is we have no liability for those sorts of acts of nature. There was a look to see whether there was some causal connection between the stormwater pond and the other issues that were going on in the house across the street. There is no connection, and so since we didn't cause the sinkhole, we haven't contributed to any of the other issues with the CARTS features in that area. The answer is, in my opinion, we don't have any liability or obligation, I might add.
So if the holding pond is designed to hold water and the sinkhole can hold much more water, why would we feel the sinkhole that's doing all of us a favor to hold water? Why are we feeling it?
We are responsible for the groundwater contamination. And
Contamination
yes.
issue. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you. Just to make sure I'm clear, in our budget item a couple months ago and the sinkhole, the description that Mr. Edwards just gave, we know of one sinkhole that is where the testing is, what you're doing engineering for right now. It happens to be in the holding pond, and if my memory serves, the holding pond is across the street from the neighbor you referenced and from your house. So if there were impacts to someone's driveway or things like that, I mean, this is a larger area of impact for karst features potentially, the ground shifting, but the grout, the lining in the sinkhole, and the holding pond, if that were causing an issue in the driveway, that work on the holding pond should be able to address those problems and stop that shift on that property. Is that correct? Is that what we're thinking right now?
That's the same assumption that I would make, and that's part of why we would be doing the project.
All right. So, we're in Florida. This is an incredible issue around all of the states, and I'm really glad, and I know that we have to be careful with the liability and other things like that. Our esteemed county attorney is going to lean in hard on that, but I'm really glad that we found a way to get the funding approved. You're working on engineering, and hopefully those steps have to take place before we do any kind of mitigation, and to make sure that mitigation is done properly. So hopefully that will benefit your home in the future and your neighbors.
All right, so I've got.
Thank you.
Let's see. Commissioner Minor, you were up, I'm sorry, and then Commissioner Proctor.
No, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Mr. Edwards, I'm very familiar with the issue. I've met with your next door neighbor I think 3, maybe 4 times, as well as Brent. Brent's been out there with us too, and very familiar with it. Probably spent more time on this constituent issue than any other single constituent issue since I was sworn in. It's definitely a difficult situation. There's actually 2 sinkholes. There was one initial one and then a second one that formed shortly after. The issue, though, is that I think there's been 3 rounds of testing conducted on the sinkhole and whether there was a causal link between, or whether there was any jeopardy between that sinkhole encroaching across the street to the homes. And there was no determination of that. And the difficult thing, again, is that there was no, during heavy rains, the sinkhole appeared shortly after that, at the same time that there was water from underneath your next door neighbor's house. And so, again, the studies didn't show that there was a causal link between those things happening. Other than a lot of rain, that there wasn't really anything that the studies showed that was the cause of the sinkhole issue and the stormwater pond causing the water into the house.
Can I jump in here rather than
sir.
turn this into kind of a dialogue? I mean, I think that what I'm hearing is that there's a limit on what we can do other than trying to fix our sinkhole. But I think the breakdown, in my opinion, is it's not fair to have him come down and find this out here. Is there a way we can communicate? Maybe it's by letters or just... Well, I'm just saying, yeah, is there a way, Rick, sounds like you've been in the midst of it, but...
Very much so. Very much so.
Maybe... Okay, all right.
Yeah. It's, I think we've really studied the issue, sir. This is the first time you and I have met, but definitely could meet with you after the meeting and talk about it further. But it's a difficult issue. And the bottom line, though, is that there's no causal link identified from the 3 rounds of testing that what's happening with the stormwater pond is affecting directly his next door neighbor's home.
Right.
And that's the main point right there. That's so difficult, but that's where we're at. So.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
I wish we had better news for you. We'll keep trying to keep you apprised. Yeah. Thank you.
The next speaker is Gary Montgomery.
Greetings to you all. Thank you for an opportunity to speak here today. My name is Gary Montgomery. I live at 822 California Street and founder of Living Stones. I'm here today to ask the citizens of Leon to join with Living Stones in working with high-risk children and families in high-risk crime areas in our community. I have 2 specific asks that I'd like for you to consider investing along with us into these families. Since I'm limited time and as a pastor, I'm very cognizant of over speaking. So I'm keeping my eye on there. But there's a fact sheet that talks about Living Stones. And then there's an ask, that's the immediate ask, where we are operating for the 2nd year a summer program at the Springfield Housing Authority in the community room for the children, not only at the housing complex, but in that surrounding neighborhood. The ask is detailed there is for $6,000. We would only run 2 sessions, but we were asked to run a summer session from June 10th through August the 2nd. Right now, we have a shortfall, and we'd like to see if the county would invest immediately along with us, because it's only $120 for the whole summer, and we're asking that you join us. The other ask is a long-term ask to join with us under Title IV Part A, where we have an in-school program working with at-risk children whose parents are incarcerated or those who are designated as having behavioral issues. We go into the schools right now working with at NIMS, NIMS, Sable Palm, and a couple other elementary schools that are listed. And we are working with those children to help them with their behavioral issues with social emotional learning. We have 44 children that have been very successful, and the Department of Education has asked us to extend the program through 2019-2020. And for a really $18 a week investment into about 90 children for a school year to keep them out of the system would be a blessing to the county. So we're just asking you to partner with us, and I'm here if you have any questions or comments.
I'll jump in on this. Mr. Montgomery, thank you for bringing this to our attention, and thank you for all the work you're doing in our community. We have a process here called Community Human Services Partnership, CHSP, which is designed solely to try and figure out how we spend the limited dollars that we have in these kind of environments. And it's millions of dollars that gets allocated among our community. And there's a group of citizens that act as kind of the review board, and they make sure that you meet audit requirements in your nonprofit and you do what you say you're going to do. And then they rank the projects. But we ask everybody, unless we go outside of our policy, to go through that process.
Ordinance.
It's an ordinance. Okay, well, I can't even do that. Okay. But I'm sure we can ask staff to link you up with the CHSP process.
Well, currently, excuse me, sir, we currently are a CHSP recipient for the last 4 years, and our funding was cut by 50%. And we are part of the Promise Zone and also for our Cove Learning Academy. So for 4 years, we've been providing services under the CHSP process, but last year we were cut by 50%, which is really putting an impact on trying to provide services in the community for those at-risk youth.
And we have a limited amount of money. Yeah, Commissioner Proctor, would you like to weigh in?
I want to weigh in on this. And one of the things I've asked Reverend Montgomery and his wife, Ms. Montgomery, to do is to focus into that 32304 zip code area. And I'm not sure the thinking of the CHSP on what necessitated a 50% cut there. But what we have been looking at, and I've been asking agencies to respond to, is what do we do in the zip code, which is Florida's most impoverished, the poorest zip code in the state of Florida. I don't know what CHSP number was thinking about to cut something like this, but I have asked him, other agencies, to please target and to focus resources into that area. And that's an area, Ms. Montgomery, I don't want to misrepresent, that 32304 is an area that man, they off the chart. You can't measure. And he's actually here, my encouragement, that we have a situation that, I understand what you said, our ordinance CHSP, but we're trying to respond to 32304, and it just is its own constellation of hopelessness, poverty. It's the kind of place where by the time you turn 15, you might even kill somebody for 50 cents. And it's that kind of fight for the consciousness of humanity. And it's in that spirit, it's that struggle right here in our community that I encouraged him to come tonight. And I'm just hopeful that recognizing the depravity of resources, that we can figure some way to agenda this matter. It's $6,000. The other thing for when the school year starts is huge, but I think we should lean on the school board a little bit. But this is not hypothetical. It's not makeup. It's not play. When children kill you for 50 cents, we should hear the cry of this voice in the wilderness, willing to try and they go down in the trenches and meet kids right where they are. And I'm asking this board or our staff for some leniency of the policy because of the targeted and focused area where the need is really great. And that's my appeal to the board. and I'd like I mean, if the policy is something that we cherish, and if this allows us to see the need, then so be it. But if we can see the need of this area, this vastly imploding, then I will ask us for creative mindsets to figure how to help Mr. Montgomery reach this desperate mass of citizenry that I'm asking your help.
Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you. Mr. Administrator, you spoke of the ordinance that we have in place as far as CHSP is concerned. If I'm not mistaken, the ordinance also speaks to organizations who receive CHSP funding. I don't believe that, are we able to even consider by ordinance extra funding that outside of the CHSP cycle for organizations who receive funding?
Yes, the ordinance not only speaks to organizations who receive money, but any organization who's eligible to receive money. So even those who do not, but may be eligible for the CIP guidelines. Did you say, is there anything that restricts you from allocating additional?
What does the ordinance say?
It says that no human services organization that is eligible for CHSP dollars is eligible for any other county dollars outside that process.
That kind of hamstrings us, as to what we can do by ordinance.
I thought the county pulled out of the CHSP process.
We did not.
Or we did not.
We're separated from United Way.
Yeah, we separated from United Way.
So the city and the county are on one side and the United Way is on the other.
Well, I know the second request is not part of the CHSP process because it's dealing with Title IV Part A. And one of the things that we want to do is expand into currently, like I said, we're in the middle school and 4 elementaries, and our goal is to expand into Griffin Middle School in Raleigh, which is in that 3204. I know that we are the civil citation provider for Leon County Sheriff and the police. So we're seeing out of 200 arrests, we're seeing a high percentage coming out of that zip code in 32310. So we see the needs. Matter of fact, we moved into that zip code because if they don't see people like myself living there, working among them, then we're going to lose them. So I know what the things are said, but we can really use some help for the children. It's not for us. We don't even get paid. It's all about the working for these children to keep them out of the system. And because father absence and poverty is huge, especially in that community. And so if there is some kind of way or some kind of situation that can happen that can help us move this dial forward, it would be a blessing. We do our Title IV Part A. We do have the approval of the Leon County School District to work within those schools. It's the principals who identify those at-risk students who are always disrupting the classes and things of that nature. So we go in and we work with them to help them with those emotional behavioral situations. And we've had some huge success over these last 6 years working with that population.
Commissioner Dozier and then Commissioner Proctor. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Ms. Montgomery, this is actually the second time today we've heard about a program that's trying to address this exact need population. The other was the Community Connections program over at Palmer Monroe, and I believe they deal with some of the juvenile civil citation as well. First time I'm getting your packet of information. The policy that Commissioner Maddox referenced, the ordinance rather, to me it is pretty strong. It's necessary because I could think of a few dozen people who could stand in your position, and they're doing incredible work just like you both are. And so I do think that the consistency of that policy does persuade. Having said that, if there were a way, what we just contemplated earlier today, the Community Connections was going to the schools. They are the primary ones to me that has to work with any programs that are getting into the schools. And if there is some type of partnership And we didn't even raise the CHSP issue earlier, but that, I anticipate that could come back if the schools worked with Community Connections like they work with you all. I think this is an area we're all interested in. And I think it is, I'm glad for the information. I don't want it to sound like the conversation is over and it's just going back to CHSP. Your point about the county pulling out, it was United Way who chose to run their own program. They're still connected with us in some respect, but not the funding. I don't know if that's what hit you with the cuts or not. But I guess I'm curious about these programs, the overlap, the impact is great, and your effort to even move into the neighborhood is phenomenal. So I'm glad to know more about it. It's just a struggle with our ordinance to do a quick turnaround funding. Can't do that, and even if we were going to ask for information to come back, that would be several weeks from now. So I'm not really seeing a path to have an immediate funding to meet your need for summer camp this summer. I guess what I'm saying to wrap this up is if there are other programs, we've heard about 2 today, that help in the schools, and that is something we need to reflect on come the fall, I'm open to that further discussion. But I'm not sure, I don't think we can do anything right now within our rules and because of the time, your critical need for the summer camp right now.
If I can just make 2 statements real quick. There's no overlap with Community Connections. We are authorized by the Department of Juvenile Justice to do civil citation. When those young people are arrested by the police or the sheriff, they are referred to us, whereas Community Connections, they get referral from probation. Those kids are already through the system. So, and even with our schools, there is no overlap, because we deal with those kids with social emotional behavior, not those who are just acting up. Now, one way that you can help us is that refer us to some sponsors, because we've had some sponsors previously. Those are the folks in the community who are boots on the ground, who have been keeping our programs going. And if you can refer us to some sponsors that can help us offset the cost, that will be totally awesome. We are a 501c3 tax deductible, and we have open arms. We welcome you to come up and see what's going on at Spring Hill with the children and the impact, and also from county employees to come over and volunteer and to see us and work with us as boots on the ground.
And you are on television right now.
Oh, awesome. Hello.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. Commissioner Proctor, you want to wind it up? You have something?
Yeah, I will. I heard what Ms. Montgomery suggested, and I'll speak with you, and I'll leave the dais, Ms. Montgomery. Let me just indicate that if Hurricane Michael had actually reached us and we had experienced some of the traumatic experiences that our neighbors to the west have, would we still be subject to the limitations if we had organizations that were serving in the human need category? Would we still be citing this policy if Hurricane Michael had hit us? Or considering that it is hurricane season, if we were hit with hurricane, there's there's absolutely nothing that we could do as a response. I'm a little troubled that we're so seriously tied and can't do anything. And we have rendered our own selves impotent. And I think that there needs to be a trap door, an escape hatch out of that policy that we have. We could very easily have been facing crises which people would need our help from this here. But we get to deny help to folk who are addressing the issues of poverty, crime, and all of that. Commissioners, I don't want to, and I apologize if I've steered you wrong, Ms. Montgomery, to come before us today.
Commissioner Maddox, and you have?
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm going to work with you outside of this dais. Thank you.
Really quick, I think we've had, 2, maybe 3 organizations come before us today with 3 different issues that address community CHSP needs. I think I leaned over to Commissioner Dozier and I said, is this a subsection or one of the things that we have in CHSP as a bucket? And she said to me, and I agree with her, this is one of the reasons that we need that needs assessment to come back as soon as possible, because the needs of our community is changing. We have two organizations that have spoken to us today to talk specifically about the needs of our children and how, well, actually, if the Children's Services Council and tax passes, then it'll be another way to address those needs. But just being able to have that needs assessment come back, tell us what our community needs, where we need to be putting more of a concentration in these of our dollars in CHSP to help these organizations, because obviously there's a need there. If you got two organizations coming forth and one that's standing before us saying they were cut by 50%, we need that needs assessment to come back. So I do wish we could do more for you, but at the same time, policy is policy. I do understand, why we put it in place and the reason we have to go by these rules, and I'm hoping that in the future we can do some more things to help you out. And I appreciate what you do for the community. I'm very familiar with it. We've sat down and had conversations. I know your heart is good. It's like you said, you and your wife will take a penny of money for what you do for our community, and so we do appreciate it. And maybe offline, like Commissioner Proctor said as well, if we can sit down and speak, I can think of some other channels to maybe try to help you out, because I do believe in what you're trying to do.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to piggyback and just say that it's very interesting, and I know we talked about it earlier today as well, the Children's Service Council and the potential for a tax to be placed on the ballot to service children, all like that. And it's amazing that probably the demographic of the students you're serving, a lot of agencies draw on that demographic to state the need. But interestingly enough, when that need is stated and it's captured, oftentimes the children who have been used to generate the numbers, they ain't the ones who receive funding. This is an amazing thing. And when we do that needs assessment, I'm willing to bet that 32304 kids who are hungry this summer, if they can hold out that long, we're going to use that demographic to measure need. And we're going to figure out some way that when the money comes in, the taxes come back, there's a good sense that the money won't be channeled back to them. And I am concerned, I think you call that pimping by another name, but we have to be careful that what we're doing is we say come back to the future, in the future, that we know these areas of need. Mr. Minor, you know who's hungry in this community. But there's a chance that we will create processes that those who are, I hate this word, truly needy, would actually be the ones who might be, funds will be diverted from serving them. Why? Because he's not a what's that word? Is it UPS? Yeah, all like that. Yeah, he's not recognized as one of them. He's not recognized as a United Way. He ain't this, he ain't that. They didn't turn their sheet of paper in right. But there'll be reasons why they won't be included in the funding. And we cannot get so silk-stocking that only the silk-stocking organizations that have fancy computers and can do this, and then guys like, y'all got a computer, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Y'all can get it like that.
Yeah.
And we don't want to leave anybody out
who's
who's down there in the trenches. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. Mr. Montgomery, thank you for all you do.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
We've got three more speakers, Mr. Administrator.
Next speaker is Peter Butzen.
Let's see. Yeah. Sally's husband.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, my name is Peter Butzen, and I appeared before you on behalf of Common Cause and the Coalition for Ethics Reform, which includes the Legal and Voters, Integrity Florida, the Florida Tea Party Network, and Common Cause. I speak before you on behalf of support for your agenda item number 20. Our coalition was formed over 4 years ago when we successfully petitioned the creation of the city's independent ethics board, which 2/3 of Tallahassee voters approved in 2014. My understanding from Mr. Long is that the ordinance before you provides a recodification of existing policy, which is why I hadn't expected to appear before you this evening. In fact, I just ran across the street from City Hall where I was appearing before the Ethics Board. On balance, we support this proposed ordinance, but with that said, let me indicate that there are a few areas for improvement. For instance, it fails to prohibit fundraising for nonprofits, but does not exclude fundraising for 401c4 organizations, which include trade and professional associations as opposed to charitable organizations. In the very least, we suggest that you prohibit public officials from soliciting funds on behalf of non-charitable organizations. And we think that a blanket prohibition would be even better because public officials sometimes appear in public service announcements on behalf of nonprofits. And such spots only serve to inappropriately enhance the public official's image and name recognition. The next point is that the ordination requires an unnecessary high burden of proof, corrupt intent, and acting intentionally. These are extraordinarily high bar for proof. We would prefer a burden of proof be a preponderance of evidence. The next point is it allows for honorariums, which could potentially just be a disguised gift. Usually public officials are asked to speak as a result of their public service, and we believe that such speeches serve a public interest as part of a public duty, and therefore should not be compensated. Last, the proposed ordinance includes a prohibition against continuing or frequently occurring conflicts of interest. We would humbly suggest that the conditional words continuing or frequently occurring be stricken because all conflicts of interest should be prohibited without condition. My last point, though, is that the bottom line is that with the exception of our suggestions for improvements, this is a strong ordinance and demonstrates our belief that the county is well ahead of the city on the issue of ethics, misuse of public position, and prohibition against conflicts of interest.
Peter, thank you. You'll be happy to know we passed that earlier today. And there were some questions Commissioner Minor brought up that we will try and address, some of which I think map to what you...
Sorry I was late.
No, it's all right. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for the... Can you repeat that, how we're so far ahead of the city? I like that.
Sorry I butchered your name. Our last speaker, Commissioners, is David Furman, and he's got a card in on two different subjects. But Mr. Furman?
Hello, my name is David Furman. Live in 2024 Longview Drive, Tallahassee, Florida. And I'm coming to speak about the what was already being brought up by our neighbor, Rick, and it's the stormwater facility. I'm that neighbor that the house has been flooded underneath. What I want to say is that in my own opinion, we cannot really understand the costs of nature, and we cannot speak or understand clearly. I am not an expert. I'm not an engineer. I'm just happen to be a homeowner, a new homeowner. And when I came to the area, it was the property value was higher. And especially my main concern is if I have to sell this property, I do not feel safe offering a place for somebody to gonna come, probably with a family, and face the same problems. Based on the studies, I understand that the intent is to solve the problem. And I believe that the problem is possibly going to be solved, but possibly is going to further, based on the conditions of the geography. I would like to just petition the board to reconsider having this area, or at least this properties across the street from what the problem is currently happening, because the original two sinkholes further escalated into a bigger hole. And little other holes came around, and I've been monitoring the place like a hawk, because currently my family is not living in the property. I have to rent an extra place to have them safe. And if I just need kind of more reassurance from the experts and the county commissioners that I live in a safe place, and if I'm going to be selling the place, I need at least a better conditions. And what the storm facility is right now doesn't really look very appealing for somebody who's looking for a place to live or to rent even. I don't feel safe renting the place. I'm paying my mortgage. I don't really know what to do. And I'm just going to leave that there. One little concern, I have many, but I don't want to take your time. I understand. I am very grateful, Commissioner Rick Minor, for being in the place several times, and Boyce, I understand your concern. You have the family. I mean, everybody who has seen this place understand that it's not an easy case. I just want to encourage an action that refers or shows the neighbors in the area that this facility is actually taking care of the flooding, the water that comes around. Last thing is, it's just my own impression, and I'm not an expert, but if you dig a little hole, you're going to weaken the soil underneath. And if something was going like a aquifer, or it was already happening over there, there is a probability that did the cause of the sinkhole, right? Fracture roof, my water on top, that can cause. So that's my take on it. My second, or last, I'm just saying that all the time, but the studies have been, I understand there is a lot of engineers and experts behind this report, the few reports, but what I don't see is that the main signature of the report shows a professional geologist, which I believe be better suited to do that. The second issue is in concern by biking safety. I've been in Tallahassee since 1996, end of 1996, and I've biked around a lot. And I'm very pleased to see the improvements and the intention of continuing. One of the issues that concerns me is that the bike lines, the bike safety areas are not properly cleaned as often or as rigorously as the regular roads. Yeah. And even the smallest low debris causes danger, safety issue for the bikers. And That's
Thank you, Mr. Furman. Would anybody, Commissioner Proctor, you want to weigh in on this?
Well,
Or
I'm
Commissioner Meyer?
District Commissioner first.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Mr. Furman, thank you very much for coming. Really appreciate it. As I said before, I've been to the home at least 3 times, maybe 4, and you met your family, beautiful family, great. The way I see it, there's 2 issues regarding this. One is the sinkhole in the stormwater pond, and whether or not the sinkhole is jeopardizing the safety of the homes across the street, including yours. The 3 rounds of tests did not indicate that there was a threat, especially after the sinkhole has been mitigated. So that's one issue. And the second issue was the water under your home, and whether or not that was caused by anything related to the stormwater pond and it manifested by the sinkhole. And that's, again, with the 3 rounds of tests, we didn't see anything that was causal between the sinkhole and the stormwater ponds with the water into the home. It's a difficult issue. I spent a lot of time, at your residence, and it's just without that causal link, I don't know what more that the county can do at this point. It's after, I'm like you, sir, I'm not an expert in this. I don't know the first thing about stormwater pond management or the details surrounding that or the geology related to sinkholes. I have to rely on the scientific analysis and our public works director to give us advice upon which we can act, and that's what I have to do. So.
I think that's it for our speaking cards. Anything else?
I want to weigh in on that.
Mr. Proctor?
What I heard the gentleman saying, as best I could empathize with what I thought I heard him saying. The first is whether or not we ought to have a moratorium on building codes in that area. Do we, and when does a moratorium on issuing building permits kick in or trigger where sinkholes occur in our community? Do we have such a policy as that?
None exists at the present. You could theoretically do a moratorium if you could determine that there is a risk, but remember, moratoria are limited to no more than 18 months. Usually it's 12 months. And you'd have to adopt it by ordinance.
Okay. Could we, do we give permits to build houses in wetlands?
We're not supposed to.
I know that there are areas of our community we've dealt with having done that before. Where this man built his house, which is now water beneath it, did we authorize this new home to be built in this wetland?
Commissioner Proctor, I know nothing about the history of the home itself, so I can't help you with that. I can tell you that I don't know when the home was built, but I can tell you that the regulatory measures you have in place now are much, much more stringent than they were 30 years ago. Your environmental management ordinances and your building codes are just much stronger. I would suspect that many of the houses that flooded in the 93, 94 rain events would not be built today. But we didn't require people to record their plat in 1989.
Mr. Vice Chair, on point here for a second.
Sure.
If you don't mind, Commissioner Proctor. I'm really concerned right now that we're going down an extreme, I was about to say slippery slope, and that's probably not the right phrase to use right now. Forgive me. If I was in your position, Ms. Furman, I would be as concerned as you are, and I am sorry for this time that you and your family have to spend outside of the home. Having said that, if we look at a map of our county, if we look at a map of the state, the karst features that are known throughout our state are under most of the structures throughout downtown. We could be sitting on top of one right now. We are sitting on one of the largest aquifers in the world, if I'm right. If I believe that's correct. So to even contemplate an idea of not building on top of karst features, which could become sinkholes, we could not build in Florida, from my perspective. That is not something we need to entertain, and it is different, from my perspective, to other flooding concerns. I hate to do this, but you voted against the stormwater fee, Commissioner Potter. That is the way we deal with, sorry about that, but we deal with addressing stormwater and having the holding pond next to homes and things like that and trying to manage the water quality and the quantity. So this is a challenging situation. We have to go through the engineering reports to get the appropriate way to address the sinkhole. We want to do that. For our holding pond, for the water quality, and if it happens to help in your home, that would be a blessing for all of us. And it takes time to move through that process. But I think it is really dangerous to start implying that because there is a potential for a sinkhole, we may want to contemplate not building because we would stop construction in Florida. And none of us have liability, no one. I mean, there are acts of nature, acts of God, however you want to frame it. So I had to interrupt right there because this is a territory that we don't want any confusion about at all. It is really, and we don't want to scare anybody unnecessarily. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Having been interrupted, and thank you, Commissioner, and your fears are not mine, and what you're afraid of, I'm not afraid of. So thank you for sharing your fears. This man stood up and said that he was afraid. His family is living, and I heard our county administrator attest that there is a sinkhole in the county. He said that. The man said, I sleep on top of something that has water. And my question is, did we allow for a building permit in a wetland? If we didn't, and it wasn't a wetland, then something has occurred of which this man has fear. He has fears. He has immediate fears. Tonight he's afraid. He said that not only is he afraid for himself to stay there, but even if he sold the house, he's afraid to sell it to somebody else for them to be subject to what he's experiencing now. So the question here, as the governmental regulatory body, which we're supposed to be, is he also said that geologists did not review. Now, if my foot is hurting, I don't know if you go to the back doctor to get a review on your foot. What kind of experts, and even if we had 3 back doctors to go down there and give an opinion about the foot, did we have the right doctors examining this man? I don't know if it should have been a geologist or a hydrologist or what it was supposed to be, but I would like staff to make sure that it's the right doctor that has given critique of the situation. Then I would like for staff to also look at, in terms of relief, does the county's insurance, where a sinkhole has originated on county property and from county property has spread, and y'all be quiet, I'm trying to talk here. Okay, thank you, sir, Mr. President. I'm trying to find out here tonight, will our insurance for a sinkhole that started on county's property actually cover, indemnify, and pay for structural damage on a neighboring piece of property of a homeowner? Is that too far-fetched to find if our insurance coverage that happened on our property affected that man's property? Does our insurance indemnify that man?
Is there an answer to that, or do you want to?
The answer is, if we had some negligence in what we did, then yeah, that's possible, but it's been determined that there is no causal relationship between the sinkhole that formed in our stormwater pond, which we're about to fix on our own nickel, and the across the street neighbors and or the road. So the answer to your question, Commissioner, is not unless we have some fault, which I haven't heard anything that indicated we did.
Okay. And then my final inquiry here is whether or not, if in fact, with a new geologist or the right kind of person, different from what we've sent there before, will find that there is a connect. Would it not be too far-fetched that the county actually buy this man's house or those homes that are affected and just make them holding ponds? I mean, they already got water underneath them and on them. Remove the structure and let them be naturally what nature has dissolved them into being. Is that an existing option?
My answer to that is not unless we cause the issue ourselves.
Yeah, the only time FEMA has come in flood events and deemed homes that are flooded out and completely. There's a very narrow window that's happened in my lifetime here where they've come in and said, this house, we're never going to let you build here again. We'll buy the house out for some fee. And but if they don't take that, but that's federal money and that's completely separate and that's not karst features and sinkholes. That's flooding issues. But I don't know of any fund that would be, and because the problem in Florida would be, where do you stop? I mean, it's a little bit of a roller coaster and a little bit of a lottery as far as who. It's a terrible situation, but unfortunately, our hands are tied. So,
Vince, as you all are reviewing this situation down the road, Commissioner, keep me in the loop of understanding that the man lives in a wetland right now. I'd like to know the building code, the building code issues, the building code that was utilized at that time, and the ordinances that allowed for a house to be built there, if all of that was concrete. I'm trying to understand, what do we do now that this man owns a home in the wetlands? Somebody gave somebody a permit to build this man's house over water. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
all right. Anything else? I think we've got pretty much everything, and I apologize we don't have better answers for some of the people that came in. Thank you for making the trip down. I know it's not easy to come up here. Yes. Yes. Commissioner Minor, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Just real quick, a couple points, Commissioner Proctor. I have learned something just because of this issue about sinkhole, karst features, stormwater pond management. My understanding, and Brent, please correct me if I'm wrong, but is that since the mid '80s, early '90s, on new construction for plots, if it's deemed as a high-risk area, there are additional bore testing requirements before new construction is performed. Is that right, Brent?
Before you get a building permit, you have at least 4 10-foot auger borings done in the corners of the house. But I think decent would probably speak to that more than likelihood. Soil borings, you have to have soil borings, at least 10 foot down.
Yeah.
Right. But please understand, Mr. Furman's house is probably 50 years old, if I'm speculating.
Maybe not quite that
Maybe
old.
built in the 70s, maybe then? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And Commissioner Proctor, that was a discussion that Brent and I had with Mr. Furman's family at that time, because the house that we're talking about was built prior to those new policies being put in place. But I bring that up because of your comment about building on those types of areas. Around that time, there were some additional requirements put in for new construction, the borings along the corners of the property. And then regarding your other question about the geologist, I don't know if that's a precise title, but I think it was the third or fourth time I went to the property itself. We actually went onto site with Dr. Hayden. He was the expert who conducted at least the third test on the property, and we went around the house and showed him the water underneath the house, and he gave us some input on the results of the test.
And this is not sewer water, is it? It's just straight water?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I think that's it. Everybody gotten their time in? All right. Thank you all. We stand, is there something? Thanks. We stand adjourned.